when somebody says to me, you can't make a difference, it's like, that's so selfish to not look at what their talents are and what they've been given and what they've been blessed with, and then to say, well, I can't do anything.
Today on the podcast, we have a pretty unique experience. We have Butch and Lori Otter, former governor and First Lady of the state of Idaho. These two have an incredible story. They both grew up in small towns in Idaho, eventually wound up in D.C., and then coming back to Idaho to be the governor and First Lady of the state. So Butch was also in Congress in D.C. Butch was in the Idaho State Legislature. He was the lieutenant governor for 12 years. And these two, and throughout their lifetime of service, just did an incredible amount for the state, an incredible amount for Idahoans across all industries and sectors of our economy and our state. So couldn't be more thankful to them for their time and how gracious they were with it. And I hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Butch and Lori Otter. You guys are the first couple I've had on here. So I wanted to talk to you about that too, about what that's like being in public office and public scrutiny as a married couple. DC versus Idaho. Yeah, just whatever we get into.
DC was fun. As a couple, to be there, not the work. Because I only got to do the fun stuff, right? So
yeah. I've had some, I had Dirk Kempthorne on the podcast and talked to him about that. And obviously he loved being governor and it's the best job in the world. And I know you've said the same thing.
Governor, I've been in the legislature where I was one of 105. I've been in the lieutenant governor's position for 14 years, where I was one of 28, and most of the time they wouldn't trust me with anything sharp. And I was in Congress for 6 years, where I was one of 535, and then I became governor, and I was a majority of one. Best job I've seen in 36 years in seated political office. It was the best job I had.
I was talking to Jeff Kempthorne, Dirk's son's one of my agents, and he has an interesting perspective because they moved to D.C.
Yeah.
And he was pretty young, and he has an interesting perspective on that. Man, Dirk's kids were like high school age, I think, like late junior high, maybe early high school when they moved to D.C.
Yeah, that would have been a whole different ballgame. Yeah. Having a family and kids back there. Butch's kids were kind of up and out, and we were, he was working on grandkids by that time. So, but it's DC, the luxury of DC is that, you're in a larger number of the 435. And so you get to have a little bit more of a life. It's not, everybody knows who you are. So DC has a little bit more cover that's kind of built in it just because of the machine and the monster that's back there. But when you're the majority of one, it's a little bit, everybody knows who you are. You're at the supermarket. You go to dinner. You
go to church. I've had people, I was going up to communion.
Really?
And I've had people stop me and ask me a question.
Yeah, serious. And then it's like, that's
Get a life.
I cannot. I would be like, I'm sorry, we don't talk politics. And Butch, Butch is Butch, and I'm me. And he's the one that would, stop and answer the question. And I would be the one that would say, I'm sorry, we're on the way to communion. We're not doing that right now. We'll talk to you about that later on. Yeah. Because, it puts him in such a bad space, so.
Andrew, are we rolling?
We're rolling.
Perfect.
Yeah,
this is great.
Crazy.
I just want to keep going with this. So that's one of the questions I had for you guys. Being married and a team in a political office like this, did you have these conversations ahead of time? Like, hey, I want you to run interference for me and tell people that I can't answer this question right now? Or did you just do that naturally?
Oh, no, I think that was part of the 15-year vetting process. He pretty much knew how I was going to handle situations, right? Like
Lori, you deal with this. Get these people.
No, I'm built that way. I'm not going to just let it go. I mean, I'm not afraid of that. And I understand his situation. I mean, he has to be the nice guy.
He does. Absolutely.
Well, but the training really was, she was an only child. Where I came from a family of 11.
Big, I wasn't an only child. I was the only girl.
That's an only child.
Yeah,
when you're the only girl.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so, it takes a while in politics. It takes a while for the spouses to handle being pushed to the back all the time, yet they're expecting to be a full, functional part of the office. And it's not fair. Surely it's not fair. But I was lieutenant governor for 14 years. And 12 of those years I was single. And so, but I had 3 daughters. And so it was handy. And Lori and I were dating for 3 years.
Squared. Or more.
A few 5. More. I was a bachelor for
3 times 5,
16
right?
years.
It was a long time.
In a way.
I played the long game, Nick.
It takes a while. But, Idahoans are very forgiving. If you use the wrong word or if you mess up somehow, in the 25 elections between the 90 and 91 election, I got a DUI. In most states, and I always thought in Idaho, that's it, you're done. It was a mistake. I went out and cleaned my mile of highway. I came back 2 years later and asked people to forgive me. And I had a 3-way primary, and I won.
So he's what they refer to as the Lazarus of Idaho politics.
Yeah.
Resurrection
Butch, I'm curious about that from the personal side of that part-time in your life, because looking at it from the outside in, you also went through a divorce in about that time frame, early 90s. I'm assuming that you were not doing great. I'm assuming you were hurting. I mean, personally.
Well, it was, I was. But it was never part of the politics. My first wife didn't care for me to be involved in politics. If JR wanted something at the Simplot Company, that was supposed to be my calling, my duty, priority, my career, my everything. And I enjoyed that for a while. But after 30 years, I just said, I'm done with it. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
And that's when I got involved in full-time politics.
So Butch is 25-1. I'm 18-0. His only loss came on the first watch, not mine. We didn't lose.
Sounds like you guys are a little bit competitive. Just a little bit.
There's absolutely no. The third term was tough. When we started out, even when we were dating and you were in Congress and all of that, it was fun. I mean, you'd go to the Republican roundups and you'd do the Lincoln Day circuit, and we were traveling all over. But it was fun because we had friends in every city and we knew everybody and everybody liked everybody. It wasn't like it is now. Now it's so bad. And by the third term, it was starting to get like that for us. So it was, third term was not an option to lose.
One of the questions I asked Governor Kempthorne, and I'm really curious to have both of you here. In fact, it was this question that led me to invite both of you and not just one of you, because I wanted both of your answers. I asked Kempthorne, I said, did you guys talk, him and his wife, before these big races or these big decisions and say, hey, I want to run for this. I want to run for Congress, or I want to run for governor. And I asked him what that process was like. Did they talk about it? Was it hard? Was there disagreement? Was the spouse saying, well, Lori, were you saying, hell no, I don't want you to run for that. That sounds miserable. Or were you guys always in alignment on the next step in the journey and the next office?
Nick, I don't know that we ever sat down and looked for agreements. Where can we agree on what we're going to do, what I'm going to do, what she's going to do? I don't know that we ever had that conversation.
Just the third race, but that was for different reasons.
It became just very natural. Now, remember, we were dating when I was lieutenant governor and when I was in the United States Congress.
Right.
And so we had plenty of wear and tear on us already before the governorship, which, by the way, is the most visible office I ever had, except for when I got the DUI. So I don't know that we ever sat down and had agreement. I don't know that we ever had an argument of, why did you say that? Why did you do that? We pretty much knew the if and the and about it long before the governorship came up.
Yeah, you guys have been through it together. You'd already been through it for years.
Yeah, and yes. I mean, I knew what I was getting into, and I loved it. I mean, I watch Fox News as much as he does, and that's pretty much all we're kind of nerds that way. And so it was always just assumed on my end. It's kind of like when you're with someone for a long time, you kind of know what their goals are. You know where they want to be. You know, I've always said that the best thing about being with Butch in politics is that I got to watch him and be part of him doing what he loves. I mean, that to me was the most fun, was to just sit back. You know, because 9 times out of 10, you are in the back of the room. You get introduced, and I always told him if he forgot to introduce me, I got a spa day. So he didn't forget me very often.
Spa days are expensive.
Yes, they are.
my Lori's spa days
yes, they are.
And so, you're in the back of the room, but how many wives get to actually go to work, travel, and see their husband do what he loves, because it's in his blood, and he's just so good at it. I've learned so much from just watching how he handles people. Not that, it's all rubbed off on me, but I'm a lot better than I was back in the day. But to me, it was just something that I knew that about him. I loved it about him. And just like coaching and teaching and all of the things that I do, he knew that about me going in. So when I got married, first marriage at 40. I was 40. I barely made my deadline of 40. And anyways, it was kind of like I didn't get to marry Butch. I got to marry Butch and the whole state for about 12 years, so that was a transition for me, not to have him kind of all to myself. But
Butch mentioned the difficulty in being told to stand in the back of the room, but then at the same time being expected to be this partner and this member and this officer and this leader. What was that like from your perspective?
Well, I came from an education where I'd got my bachelor's, my master's. I was running a school. I was a smart, intelligent career person. And then I was First Lady, which has a little bit different, you can do as little or as much with it as you want. But you're not the elected person. Your husband is. So really, I was richly blessed because Butch is like, do as much as you want with it or do as little as you want with it. But it was hard. It was hard to go in, not because of Butch, because Butch was awesome about it, but because staff really didn't know what to do with a very strong personality person. I'm very driven in my own world. I've accomplished a lot on my own. I was 40. I wasn't used to being in the back of the room. But that being said,
He was an only child.
sooner or later, you have to figure out, that's what you signed up for, and you play, you got to play within the lines and push them when you can. And I did a lot in my 12 years.
Well, you did a lot before. You were pretty well schooled in it. It was Miss Idaho. We initially met on the 4th of July. And do you know how many rodeos there are in Idaho?
Too many to count.
Of all the rodeos
Too
in
many
all the
rodeo
world.
parades. I'm Lieutenant Governor. She's Miss Idaho. And so we were constantly in parades together. And then later on, we actually campaigned. She headed the calf. I healed it.
Really?
So that's how we campaigned.
And
It
the
was great.
people
I didn't know
loved
that.
it, even
Yeah.
when we missed,
Oh,
which
I
I
love it.
didn't miss very
That's
often.
why I
but
always
she
had to
did.
head. Yes, you see it taking the hit.
Okay.
So we would go to all the 44 counties and do all the rodeos, and we'd team rope or ride in the parade, and it was a blast. We had a great time.
We did. We had a good time with it.
fantastic.
Our motto was, if it's not fun, we quit, and it took us about 12 years to get to that point where we were done.
I was ready to leave when that 12th year rolled around. In fact, we had decided we weren't going to run for a third term.
What made you
Now,
change
you
your
ask
mind?
about decisions that we made together.
Yeah.
We were satisfied that 8 years getting us through the recession.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I had done for education, for medical education in Idaho, finding 2 community colleges, bringing the law school from Moscow to Boise, all of those things that I did. I thought, that's enough.
It is.
That's enough. But we didn't like how it was shaping up for the Republican Party. And so that's when I decided I was going to run again. And I brought the polls home and showed them to Miss Lori. She said, "We're running again."
Just
There
like
was
that.
no
huh?
question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you work that hard at something to get things squared away, and we went from, you survived real estate in those days, right?
did.
It was brutal, and education, everything was cut, and then to get it to, what did we have, 435 million in the rainy day fund when
700.
yeah, something like that.
That's a lot
Anyways,
of money.
Big time.
to go from that to where we were at the end of the second term, we were like, it's good to leave on top, but he's right. When you work that hard to get something, you want it left in good hands, and we weren't fans of the person that was in charge and probably going to win the primary, and so it wasn't just no, it was hell no.
So you guys take office in 2007, right? Which is about 12 months before the crash. The crash had already started in some ways. In many ways, the writing was on the wall. What was that like? What was it like taking office, becoming
It was
governor of state?
painful. There were certain indices that I watched very closely. Of course, unemployment was one of them. The cash flow, how much cash is coming into the state in 07, in January 31st of 07, as opposed to January of 06. All the things that I watched. How many people are signing up for power? So how many people are moving in?
Yep.
You couldn't do that with the phones anymore.
Right.
We used to do it with the phones and the power company. But that we knew, and really what we saw was people were leaving. And they were deciding that maybe their economic future wasn't in the state of Idaho. We had crossed that bridge in 86. C. Sanderson and I did. Because the previous year we had 5,000 people picked up and left the state. And that dropped us below 1.5 million. Anyway, those are the things that you got to watch. So you have, like I said, you have little indexes that you watch. And by 07, Nick, my first budget was $3.2 billion. $3.2 billion. By 2010, my budget was $2.2 billion. And by 17, we'd gained all that back and given $1.8 billion in tax relief.
So how do you make decisions about what gets cut when you got to cut a third of your budget?
Well, like I said, I was raised in a family of 11. My dad was an electrician. So I called the legislature in and gave him my dad's speech because Dad had finished a job and then we'd have to conserve. The austerity would come in because we didn't know when he was going to get another job. And so sitting around the breakfast table, he'd say, well, until I get another job, there's some things we aren't going to do that we had planned this year. Nobody gets new shoes. We're gonna fix the old ones or buy more cardboard, cut a silhouette out and put them in there. And that was the kind of thing we had to do. And so when I called the legislature in, because Dad said, we're going to focus on what's necessary, we haven't got time for what's nice. So I called the legislature in, and the leadership was very much in agreement. And I said, we're going to redefine the proper role of government in Idaho as what is necessary, not what is nice. And so consequently, we started cutting out all the nice stuff. And we had a lot of it. Actually, Nick, when you think about my old conservative corpuscles, and I look back on it with the legislature and some of the guys that I talked to and gals that I talked to in the legislature, saw the recession as an opportunity to do what they had wanted to do for years.
Absolutely.
They wanted to cut back. They wanted to get rid of the fat. They wanted to get rid of the nice. And they wanted to focus on the necessary. So it was in a way, it was a blessing.
Yeah, not at the time. Because at the time, it was, this is when the closer you are to, the more local the office, the more feedback you get, I guess is the nice way to say it. So we cut the schools. I remember the Idaho Public Television. Oh my gosh, we were going to close the parks. I remember a really favorite because I was coming from the education, and so everybody was calling me.
Oh yeah,
like I had anything to do with it. And I remember one of my favorite superintendents who actually hired me in the district. She's like, Lori, there's got to be more money. And I finally just said, listen, there's not a basement at the bottom of the Capitol full of money that we're just not giving you. There's just not any money right now. And so it was pretty brutal though. It was, it might've been a good time for policy change, but having to go to the grocery store and get calls and things like that, it wasn't always fun.
Was there some cuts or decisions that you made that were more difficult than others, or things that you were struggling with at the time?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was a cure. In a way, it was a cure. We got better at education when we had to cut some money out of education. We got better at higher education because we had to reduce the college budgets. And the students took themselves a little more serious. Hey, I've got to make a contribution here too. Instead of fooling around and not going to class and getting the education that the state's been trying to provide for me, I better get up in the morning and go to class and learn something because they're trying. So, and it was that way in almost every industry. Lori mentioned the parks. And the parks was brutal because parks are nice.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But they're not necessary.
Yep.
And so I asked every agency, all 22 agencies, I said, give me a business plan. I want to know where you're making money and where you're not making money. And So Parks was one of the first ones that said, we don't know how to do a business plan. And I said, well, you're not getting away with it that easy. Health and welfare, the guy that I appointed health and welfare came from Blue Cross. And so I said, Dick, you got to go out and teach Parks how to work out a business plan. And it was as simple as cash flow, who's making money, who isn't, who's spending a lot of money and who isn't, and what are they spending it on. And so anyway, I decided, and Parks said, "Oh, we haven't got we don't know a business plan," and so did PBS, so did the public television.
That was the other one.
So I said, "All right," and I waited a month or two, and I'd gotten all the other business plans in, and so I said, "All right, I'm writing your business plan. I'm cutting you 30% a year for 3 years."
They figured it out pretty fast. And I would tell you, the person that did figure it out was Nancy Merrill.
Nancy Merrill had been,
hands down, saved Parks during that time.
How so?
Nancy, well, what she did was
Smart lady.
she went to the local communities, and she said, we got 30 state parks, and every state park has an adopted community. And a good example was Orfino and the big dam up there and the park. And she'd go into those communities and she'd say, that park is part of your economic engine. People come to the park, they go to the grocery store and buy potato chips and hot dogs and hamburgers. And some might stay overnight at a motel. They're going to buy gas at your station. So you guys better take some ownership here and get the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and Rotary Club and the Rotarians and get every service club and get them out at that park cutting the grass and painting the fences and stuff. And what she found was that, boy, they readily accepted that. They wanted, and then they started taking pride and ownership in their park, and that was their park. And so if somebody was abusing it, don't you abuse my park. And Nancy just did a tremendous job. And the business plans that she put together, because we had a combined plan as well as an individual park plan. And the most successful park was Ponderosa State Park in McCall. And it was making 138% of its costs. So it was making a profit. The worst one was Cataldo. And it was making about 5% of its costs. And so we went to we went to the tribe and said, "Hey, you guys want to keep this park open? I can't keep this park open if you're not going to participate." And so Chief Allen was good, and they contributed, I don't know totally over the years, but I know I asked for $500,000 to start.
The interesting thing is, you hear about all of the terrible times, and it wasn't a fun time. It was a good time to cut and everything. But you find out what people are willing to work for and what they are willing to fight for and what's really important to them, which is, parks are important, things like that. But they're important to the extent that they are willing to then work for them, right? So if it becomes... like we never shut anything down. Arizona did. A lot of states shut. They just flat out shut parks down, and it was 2-3 years before they opened. We never raised taxes. We never really we never shut public TV down. We never shut the parks down. Sometimes in Idaho, it's like a kid. You just have to tell them, just clean your room, or somebody's going to clean it for you.
Yeah, the biggest feedback I got on PBS was Big Bird. Big Bird.
Miss Big Bird.
What are we going to do? What are my kids going to do at breakfast without Big Bird?
Right.
And that's great. Because I've never watched Big Bird, but I know he's big and he's yellow. And that's all I know. That's all I know about it. But there's some good programs, good educational programs on PBS, and people of Idaho see that because they contribute to that during their annual begathon.
That's right.
When they're asking for money.
The begathon. He calls it the begathon. It's not.
Well, they are asking.
It's a fundraiser.
Money.
So in 2010, I was selling real estate, and at the time, I used to tell people that the market in Idaho was what I would call artificially deflated. And what I meant by that was, previously, obviously, it was inflated by a bunch of funny money prior to the mortgage crisis meltdown. But in 2010, 2011, there was so much fear, that prices had gotten so low that it was ridiculous. I mean, you could buy a house in Nampa that's a 3-2, 1,200 square foot house for $50,000, and you could go rent that house for $1,400 a month. Now, I'm not a math genius, but it doesn't take long to realize that that's about a 25-30% cash on cash return. And when that happened, and this is just my little microcosm of the real estate market, we started having American Homes for Rent and all these really large real estate funds see that and come into our market, and they were buying hundreds of houses. And that really did put kind of a floor on our market, and it started building up from there. But I'm curious from your guys' perspective, being in the governor's seat at the time, the First Lady, what were some things you saw that was positive, that looked like we were crawling out of this thing?
The employment rate, wouldn't you say, when things started going back
together?
Yeah,
but we had problems there too.
We were underemployed for a long time.
Because we had skills deficit in Idaho. We didn't have the framers that we needed, the plumbers, the electricians, which was one of the reasons in 2009 we actually started the College of Western Idaho in Nampa. And we almost didn't get it because in order to create a community college district, the statutes say you got to have 4 school districts, public school districts.
Okay.
Ada County only had 2. You got Ada and West Ada. And so we had to include Caldwell or Canyon County in that, and they got like 7 or 8. It's ridiculous how many. Anyway, then it had to pass by a 2/3 majority. So we needed 66 2/3 vote on that. We got like 58, 59 in Canyon County, but we got like 71, 72 in Ada County. And so between the two of them, it passed. We opened in 2009 with like 1,900 students. Take a guess how many's out there now.
I have no idea.
33,000.
Wow. I never would have guessed that.
And the same thing's happening in eastern Idaho and in Idaho Falls. But one of the things that we focused on, kids take whatever study you want. You've got to decide what your career is. But boy, have we emphasized welding. Have we emphasized carpentry?
We were Mike Rowe before Mike Rowe was Mike Rowe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plumbing,
like,
right?
Yeah, I took 2 semesters of welding when I was governor.
Yep.
1 semester at the college, at the campus, Boise State campus, and then the second semester was at Nampa. And after 2 semesters of learning how to aluminum weld, I knew how to steel weld.
Aluminum, that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh,
I don't know how to do it.
Terrible. It's terrible. It's tough folk. I marvel at the people that can do it. But anyway, so after the reason I did that is I tried to weld a hole in my aluminum horse trailer.
He succeeded.
and I made the hole bigger.
There was no try. It was all do.
Did you patch it up when you learned how?
No, after 2 semesters, I learned how to fix that horse trailer. I hook onto it with my pickup and take it down to Blake Trailer.
And let them fix it, which is what
And
somebody
have them
mentioned.
weld
I've been to Blake
Somebody
Trailer a few
mentioned
times.
it the first time.
What?
That's what somebody suggested the first time. Yeah. So, but when did you know that it was the things were turning around? I thought it was maybe the trade missions or.
Well, we kept up with the trade missions in order to keep our pulse. I started a program called Capital for a Day. And over the course of my governor's career, I did 108 of them in those years. And what I would do is I would find a little town that needed some attention, that was hurting, that was complaining. And I would talk to the state legislators from there and the county commissioners and the mayor, and I'd say, what's your problem? And it was usually fish and game and water and those sort of things. So then I'd get those cabinet members that handled those subjects, and we would go into that town. Never went to a county seat that I can recall. Because these people didn't see their government.
Right.
That's where the state legislators come from, and they're doing a good job of communicating with people, but they don't get a chance to see them every day. So we'd go into town at 9 o'clock in the morning, we'd start, and we had the open mic, and sometimes we'd have 200 people, sometimes we'd have 15. But we always had attention.
Yeah.
And people would come in and give us, the what for, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. Give us a chance to defend ourselves. Give us a chance to say, well, what would you do?
And also a chance to say, well, really that's not us. It's the federal government. That you get somebody up there railing on you and just beating the crap out of you for 20 minutes, and then they finally take a breath, and you're like, well, sorry, sir, that's actually a federal agency, and the state has no jurisdiction. So then we started bringing in the congressional delegation and making their staff come. So it was really fascinating, and I still kick myself to this day that I didn't put all of those questions, because at the end of the day, you'd leave, Du Bois or Ammon or some small little town, and Weippe, Firth or something, and you'd have 30 questions from people in the audience, and then that would go to the cabinet member, and then from the it would go to our staff, then it'd go to the cabinet member, and then it would trickle down, and then there was, before the next one, there was a time where he'd meet with people and say, what happened with the lady on the the well situation, or did we get her taken care of? And we'd go through all those and make sure that those were answered and or directed to the appropriate agency for follow-up.
Yeah.
And so it was, Capital for a Days that is Butch Otter politics at its finest. People would always say, aren't you going to prep for the debate? And I was like, he's prepped all year. He's gone into every county. Yep. When the wolves were, when they did the reentry of the wolves, oh my gosh, we were in Cami. Was it Cami?
No, we were in Midvale.
Midvale. Oh my gosh. And it was just, they showed up with, there were 50 people, and they were mad as hell, and they weren't going to take it anymore. And it was crazy.
The day before, I had vetoed the legislative wolf bill. Because we had a plan, and we agreed on a plan. And the legislature, there were guys in the legislature, and I can understand that they didn't think it was moving fast enough. And I couldn't violate the confidence of the tribes, the industry, the cattle industry, the sheep industry, all the industries that were being harmed by the wolves, and the fish and game.
Yep.
I couldn't violate their confidence by signing that bill, which totally twisted what we had intended when we put the plan together. And, it took a while, but it worked.
How many bills did you veto while you were governor? How often did you use that?
In one session?
Yeah. One day, 38.
That's the record? 38?
38 in one day.
One day.
Boom.
One
You
day.
just in a bad mood or what?
No, I was trying to get some money.
It was strategic.
I was trying to get some money for highways.
Okay.
And I had asked for like 6 cents or a nickel
The gasoline tax.
for gasoline and diesel tax. And the legislature was hell-bent not on not raising taxes. But I kept making the point that you don't seem to understand that deferred maintenance is deficit spending.
Mm-hmm.
We don't fix that highway. If we don't chip seal that highway every 7 years, in 18 years we lose it. Then it's $1,300,000 a lane mile to replace it.
Lane mile. Think of that.
That's unbelievable.
So imagine what that is for 4 lanes across, 5 lanes across, because you got the turn lane in the center. But we did some things like we quit chip sealing outside the fog line where nobody drove. We thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And the guys running the agencies did a good job. We had a little trouble with the director when I first became governor. I inherited. And it was a disaster. And it was a disaster in the legislature. She had made some serious budgetary mistakes on addition and on inclusion. Anyway.
Transportation in Idaho is always, I don't know, tricky, contentious, difficult, especially in southwest Idaho, obviously in the Treasure Valley. I mean, growing up here my whole life, I've always said that we don't build anything until we need it, and then by the time we need it, it's too late.
Yeah, well, that's...
But what is your perspective on that? I mean,
Well, I think I pretty well defined it when I was governor, is that there's certain things you can wait on and certain things you can't. And bridges and everything, Nick, everything we make in Idaho leaves this state on a band of concrete or on a jet airplane. Maybe computer chips is all that is. We shipped from Simplot one time. We shipped 76,000 head of preg-tested Holstein heifers by airplane to South Korea.
Wow, that's incredible.
We rebuilt their dairy herd. Anyway, it's frustrating when you can see the problem and you can explain the problem, but you can't get an understanding on the problem. And highways and bridges. We had bridges that had a 50-year design life that we were 75 years on them.
But one of the great things that you did was like they'd never had a 5-year plan.
Oh,
or
yeah.
a 10-year plan or a horizon plan. Like they were just, you were right. They were playing catch up all the time because they didn't have a plan. Now you can do a 5-year plan and that plan's going to have some flex in it and there's different, things can change.
Sure.
But at least you have a general idea of your budgetary issues. You have a general idea of your structure and your infrastructure. Like, where do you see this going? So, for example, they were working on the Highway 16 thing and getting that ready to go when we were in office. So that's kind of one of those things that, like, for example, people would say to me, well, I can't believe you're going into real estate. Why are you going into real estate? And I was like, I've been sitting in those board meetings with my husband, and I've been listening. I go on all the trade missions with him, and I see everything that's coming in. And I go to the Department of Labor presentations, and I see all the migration coming into the state. And I was like, why wouldn't I go get my real estate license?
Absolutely.
And that's right when it hit, just like, 16 is when I got mine. And so, the infrastructure is frustrating for everybody. But at least now they're looking at a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. And the cities are starting to go into that more as well. And more of the cities in this area are getting urban planners. You know, Boise State now has a master's degree in urban planning. Who would have ever thought that would have happened? Right?
I never would have.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can always, you know, second hindsight and everything. But for the most part, I think the growth has been recognized by everybody. And I think the agencies are doing their best to within the taxpayers. You know, if you want to do it all at once, then you're going to have your taxes raised.
You're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you want us to do pay as we go, then you might be able to maintain your tax base.
What do you wish you would have known? And I guess maybe a better way to ask this question is, what would you have told your younger selves prior to running for governor of the state of Idaho? If you could have gone back and talked to yourself, what would you say?
He was governor. I
Well,
can answer the first lady question.
First lady and governor, both of you.
I was richly blessed, Nick. I had 14 years of on-the-job training under 3 governors.
As lieutenant governor.
As lieutenant governor, C. Sanders was great. He because I was coming off of being president of Simplot International, traveling to 82 countries around the world, setting up operations for Simplot and McDonald's. That was pretty good experience.
Absolutely.
I made some mistakes in the beginning, but I learned from those mistakes. And so when I became lieutenant governor in 86 under Cease, he said, in the state of the state, he says, I recognize my lieutenant governor's talents, and I'm going to use them. I ran every trade mission. And over the course of all the years, we were running 2 and 3 a year. So I think we did 28 total.
Yep, 28 total. And I think I went to 20 of them. I think I gave up on China the last 2 or 3 years.
I'm not going back to China.
I'm not going back to China. There's no birds or wildlife or China is no churches. It's a very and we're in this free economic zone, so we were in, you know, Beijing and Shanghai and Harbin and all of these deals, and it's just an unbelievably different place.
Yeah.
I remember one dinner we were at in Harbin, which is where they grow all their groceries. And it's like you can see Russia, it's 200 miles away, 150 miles away. Anyways, we're sitting there at dinner, and you always have the Communist Party with you at these things. You know, you have the government officials. And we were talking, and the guy goes, he said, well, how old are you? And he told me, and he was my age, or he was older than me. He was like 85 or something.
85 is older than you?
Smart guy. Shh, don't tell anyone. And I said, well, have you always done this? And he looked at me like I was an idiot because I'm American. And he said, I ran the universities when Mao Zedong came through. And I was too smart. And he said, you can die or you can go to the fields. And I said, oh, you went to the fields? He goes, yes, now I run all the fields. And I was like, I know you're sitting with this person. And you're like, he's lived through more than in his lifetime.
Yeah.
He's gone from the top to the fields, and now he's in the government running that. It was just fascinating. So those trade missions were unbelievable, and Butch did a great job.
1956 was the Great Leap Forward, headed up by Mao Zedong and opposed by the folks that ended up in Taiwan. And Mao Zedong said, let 1,000 flowers, let 1,000 blossoms bloom, let 1,000 ideas of thought be content. And so when they did that, he killed every one of them.
Killed all the university people. It was crazy. But the trade missions were fascinating, and that's kind of when I knew the business was picking up, because Butch would we'd bring companies, you know, and they basically you're on a trade mission to sell potatoes or
groceries.
That's right.
whatever, or
Yeah.
whatever they're selling. And he'd meet with the companies, and they'd sell tons of hay, and they'd sell. I mean, it was amazing. That it wasn't just our economy.
Yeah.
It was the bigger economy.
We'll talk about your experience. I mean, that's what you were doing for Simplot, right? Is selling potatoes. Selling potatoes.
Yeah,
So
and that was my pitch in 76. Pardon me, 86. When I ran for lieutenant governor, I said, I want to be the top French fry salesman and grocery salesman. Right now, I'm selling French fries, beef patties, fertilizer. That was the Simplot's 3 main products. I said, we got 44,000 products in Idaho. I'll sell every one of them.
And he started by Idaho,
makes sense.
which is worldwide now, which is all Idaho products.
Yep, that's absolutely flourished. But when were you in Congress? What years?
2001 to 2007.
Okay, so did you guys move to DC together?
No.
We weren't married. He came home every weekend, or I went there.
Oh, you guys just commuted? Okay.
Yeah, he had a great place on the Potomac that he bought for a while.
She was teaching school.
Principal. I was teaching school and doing all that, and so that's what I mean. I get to do the fun stuff. So he'd be like, "Hey, we're having a big shindig," and I'd get on the plane and fly and go do that for the weekend and be back in time
speaking
for
of
Monday.
fun stuff,
Yeah.
we go to a Christmas party at the White House.
These are stories.
And, it's mostly Republicans
Yeah.
and everything. Anyway, and so the band started a tune which sounded like the Bunny Hop. So now we've got this chain of people, dun 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 dun, dun all through the White House, from the hallway through the Lincoln dining room, through the John Adams room, through the Jefferson room.
Are you going to tell me that wasn't the song?
Huh?
Was it the song? Was that what was playing, or was it a different song?
I
No.
started it and let it all
She
the way
started-
through.
You did?
I started it and let it all the way
Oh
through.
my gosh.
And
She
Mike
started-
Simpson was behind me, and he had a white tux shirt on, and every time we'd go, na-na-na-na-na, bump, 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 and he'd hop forward, his wine glass would go half on him and half on the back of my dress.
He was drinking.
What
Mike goes, "What did
He
you
must have
do?"
been soaked.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Mike wasn't the only one. I mean,
it was late
there
in the
were a
evening.
lot of people. This chain that we had was
it was
probably
fun. It had 80 people in
150,
it.
200 people.
Yeah, at least. It was hilarious. It was a great band out of Texas. It was when Bush was in.
Yep.
And so those are such fun memories.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd go to the congressional balls, and then when you're in the governorship, the president hosts you for dinner at the White House every year. And so one of our first or second ones was when Bush was in office, who was my favorite. And so we're sitting there, and Bush would always say, when we'd show up to the congressional Butch events, he'd say, "When are you going to marry this girl, Butch? You think you're going to do better?" And I'd be like, "I love you, George." Anyways, so they knew who we were from that. That was like,
But his wife, Laura, was worse.
oh, she was.
Well, that
she was
just speaks
awesome.
to your resilience. I mean, you're getting leaned on by the president and the first lady. That's pretty tough
It was
stuff.
Pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I was.
But then we get married, we get elected, we get a letter from them when we get married. So
Okay.
they knew. Somebody told them, and so we're at the White House for dinner, and one of the things you don't realize is that when you go to the dinner at the White House, they separate you and your spouse. So you're at one table, spouse is at another table, unfortunately, and I look over, and all of a sudden I see the president standing next to Butch, and he's like this, and Butch goes, "What?" He's like, "Oh, hi, Mr. President," and all of a sudden he gets up, and I'm like, "What did he say to you?" And so Butch comes in, and he goes, "You can tell this part."
I'm sitting there, and we're just getting, and I'm sitting between Palin and Schwarzenegger.
Which was not good.
And I think
That's
my
interesting.
job was to
Yeah.
keep the peace.
I bet.
Anyway, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. I looked up, and it was the president. And Bush, he said, "Butch, can I see you for a minute?" And I said, hell no, I just got my salad. I'm eating my salad. No, I didn't. I jumped right up, and we went into the green room, which is right next to the Lincoln room. So it's the John Adams room. And I'm governor. Anyway, and he said, Butch, I just wanted to know what it's like for you to come to the White House without getting a butt chewing.
Because he would vote against things,
The
Patriot
budget.
Act, the budget, Medicaid, Medicare, the Part A. Yeah, it was always something. So one of three that voted against him.
Mr. President, it's not a problem because you were always a gentleman about it. We disagreed, but you were always a gentleman about it.
Why'd you vote against the Patriot Act?
It was the wrong thing to do. It was an overreaction, and the motivation didn't have anything to do with, very little to do with safety. The motivation was, we got to do something so that the people will see that we're doing something. But what we were doing was we were violating the 4th, 5th, 8th, we were violating, and 10th Amendments to the Constitution. Probably more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was Ben Franklin said, for those who would trade security for freedom deserve neither.
Neither. Yeah.
I used that in my debate on the floor.
And if you look at what's happened since, all the things that happened with Trump and all the kind of the overreach, that's all, a lot of that.
All the FICA courts were created under the Patriot Act.
Yeah, so you can't legislate for your part what you think your party can do, because sooner or later the other party is going to be in office. And that's a sticky wicket.
Isn't that the truth? And I mean, so many things changed in our country, obviously, after 9/11. And I don't even hear people raising these issues anymore in protest of rights being violated. I mean, it seems like we've all just kind of like lemmings gone off of this cliff together.
I think the guard that I say the guard, and by that I mean the generation that has been so active in protecting those rights and being involved, and especially in this state. I mean, they're tired. Those people are tired, and they're waiting for that next generation to come on and kind of take on some of these things. And so far, they just haven't really stepped up. I mean, I know lots of people that were active when we were in, and that's the sense I get from them. I think the people that have fought to get us where we are for so long and protect us so much are just, honestly, they're just tired. And maybe they fought too much and didn't teach the next generation how to fight, I don't know. It's a real issue, though, out there, especially even in Idaho, in our own party, because right now you have most of the party is pretty siloed, and there's a lot of, I always say Republicans eat their own, especially in this state, because we're the majority of the majority.
We do. Yeah.
So, when we were in office, starting our third term, they called Butch a socialist, and then they endorsed Russ Fulcher, and they called Butch a socialist.
Why were you a socialist?
Who knows?
It was Obamacare.
Oh, that's what. Oh my gosh, we had
72,000. We had 72,000 people that didn't have insurance, and it wasn't fair to the doctors that do no harm. If you show up at a doctor's office and you got a problem, the doctor
has to
is going to take care of it. That's his oath. Do no harm. And so we had 72,000 people that didn't have insurance, and so the legislature didn't want to use federal money, and they didn't want to use state money. I said, where in the hell are we going to get the money? And we had some ideas, and we worked on them.
I'm pretty proud of how that all went down. Not everybody, that's one thing I've learned that has helped me and just in my life is that you watch the news, even you talk to one person, you don't have all the information that the person making the decision has.
Right.
And so you don't always understand exactly what went into having to make the decision that was made. So that when we took Obamacare, we didn't really take Obamacare. We took the monies and created our own healthcare portal, which really was super smart. So if you've ever been on Select Idaho?
Select
Health
Idaho.
Idaho.
Yep.
That's Butch. Butch did that.
Okay.
Because that is a direct result of what Obama, otherwise you would have had to go to a federal portal.
Right.
So we're like, Butch said, what are we going to do? And finally he said, if we have to make a portal, by God, we're going to make our own portal. And they're going to be able to check Idaho companies against Idaho companies instead of just going into the federal pot for insurance. And so that, how long ago has that been from Obamacare? But it's still up and functioning, and it's, it's working. I know healthcare's a hard topic for anybody, but, at least you've got a fighting chance to see what you can do.
Well, the problem of it is not everybody, not every state, I should say, was as diligent as they should have been. And it's starting to raise its ugly head right now. Minnesota, California.
Yep, absolutely.
Billions and billions of dollars in fraud.
Waste and fraud.
And we knew that was going to happen. We warned them that was going to happen. If they didn't have their own state plan and could direct the money to the problem, then they were going to have a fraud problem. And, that's exactly what has happened. They had daycare in Minnesota that nobody ever went to, yet they got the money.
Empty buildings, yeah.
$8-9 billion. And that denies somebody the resources for healthcare.
And I think we're just uncovering the tip of the iceberg with that stuff.
Yep, I agree.
So
But, one of the things that I think I've been richly blessed in that dealing with the governors that I dealt with, Andrus, I served 8 years under Andrus, 4 years under Bat, and 2 years under Kim Thorne. That was a pretty good experience.
Yeah.
Plus, in my private side of my life, in the private enterprise, I got to work alongside Jack Simplot.
Yep.
And some other guys that were very instrumental in my business education. Probably the thing that, if I could put it in a phrase, and it's a phrase I love, be stronger than your excuses.
That's actually on a refrigerator.
If I could put it in that, be stronger than your excuses.
I love that. Yeah. That reminds me of something Governor Kim Thorne shared when he was in here, and he talked about how he is not a caretaker and that he is in office to get a job done and that he was elected to get a job done and he's going to get something done while he's there. What was he like to work for?
Dirk, of course, I only worked for him for 2 years.
Yeah.
And his experience as governor was probably, he was the stingiest governor I worked for.
Was he?
Phil Batt had me running all over the world doing trade missions. Cecil Andrus had me running all over the world. And Phil Batt gave me the gaming commission, where we decided whether or not the tribes were going to get casinos or not. Dirk, like I said, we hadn't gotten used to each other. And Dirk was, he went on the trade missions himself, which he was
entitled to
do. And the first trade mission I think he went on was to Taiwan. And that's when they had the earthquake.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he called to tell me that he was okay. He and Jim Risch and Jack. And anyway, I'm okay. And he said it was a pretty good run down from the 25th floor. And I said, what? And he said, well, they gave us suites on the 25th floor. I said, Dirk, their fire trucks will only reach 4 floors up.
If that. Yeah.
I learned that a long, long time ago.
Yeah. Don't go above 4. Don't go to 25.
Yeah. But anyway, I didn't miss a lot because I was in charge while he was gone.
Yeah.
And that was good training for what you did later. But one of the things with Dirk and Butch is just that they were so close to each other on their career trajectories. Both were young, going up, wanting more, doing more, and so it was there was a little competitiveness within the party too.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably the biggest strain on that relationship. But
I couldn't believe he had to leave the United States Senate and come home to be governor. But he was smarter than I thought. He was smarter than I gave him credit.
Well, that's one of the things you guys have in common is neither one of you were enamored by D.C. and wanting to stay back there, which a lot of people are. A lot of people do. They go there, they never come back.
Yeah.
Well, you have to love it because the work is 100% different, and
How so?
The speed of the work, the age. The world isn't really run by representatives; it's run by 20-year-old staffers. The pace of the work, the sheer tonnage of the breadth of knowledge that you have to have in one day of meetings, and the topics that are covered that you have to be responsible for is pretty staggering, really, for one person. So the staff becomes a really integral part of that type of, and a lot of it just depends on, where they are in their life. Do they have kids? Are they retired? I mean, like Jim and Vicky they love it. And gosh, bless their hearts. I mean, doing a great job.
Yeah, Jim's just right for the United States.
Same with Simpson. Same with I'm really everybody that's there now. My gosh, Crapo, you look at the combined leadership power that Idaho carries between Simpson, Crapo, and Risch. I mean, we are small in numbers, but we swing a big stick in D.C. With Crapo being the budget hawk. Simpson's basically what do we call him? He's a cardinal, so he's almost running the entire budget. And then Risch is doing all the intelligence committee stuff. So there's
and foreign affairs.
And foreign affairs. So there's not any real area where we don't have input at a national level in this state. So it's pretty fascinating. So, bless their hearts, people are saying, they go back and they stay forever. Well, they stay forever because you kind of have to stay forever to get to the position where you can really make an input.
Make an impact, yeah. Butch, did you know prior to even running for Congress that you wanted to come back and run for governor? I mean, did you already know that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If it hadn't have been for the DUI in 92, I was prepared to run for governor until I got the DUI, and then Phil Batt came to me and he said, Butch, I want to run for governor. And I had Steve Sims, and I had an awful lot of very influential Republicans said, are you going to run or are you going to support Batt? And I decided that 4 years of Batt would give me an opportunity to rehabilitate my political career because I got the divorce, I got the DUI, I left Simplot. It was those things. I was the first governor ever elected that had been divorced. Ever. Anyway, it was interesting. But the problem with D.C., and I think Jim McClure, when I first was elected to Congress, and he had a big lobbying firm back there, and So he called me one day and he said, I want to take you to dinner. So he and I went to dinner and a couple of his staffers. And I said, Jim, was it always this vitriolic back here? Was it always this fighting? And he said, no, Butch, your problem is you are victims of transportation technology. When Louise and I and the kids were elected in '64, and we came back here, we only got to go home about 3 times a year. So what happened? On the weekend, we stayed in town. We had a backyard barbecue. Our kids played together. If we had a swimming pool, we had a swimming party. Your problem is the only time you see each other is when you're fighting each other on the floor or in committee. So you don't have a chance to get to know each other personally. And as people, you're enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my enemy. And so, because they're Democrats and because you're Republicans, you're enemies.
And that's why the governorship is so much more fun, because you're, one of 50. And that there's 49 other people that you can call and talk to that are probably experienced something, especially if you're in the same political spectrum. I know for me, that's who I relied on. They send you to governor and first lady school, and you kind of learn about expectations and balance and how not to get in trouble, and some of the things that need to happen in that position. But you also get to meet and see those other governors and spouses on probably a quarterly basis, I would say. We probably saw.
Well, the Western governors was a unique. First off, it was the best gubernatorial organization I belonged to. It was better than the Republicans.
Who's in the Western governors? Which governors?
All the Western states west of the Mississippi, clear out into the Pacific. So the islands, the protectorates, are also. There are 19 governors and about 4 or 5 islands that are all part of it. But we've all got the same problems, Nick. We all got water problems in the West. We got the federal government. The federal government doesn't own very much land east of the Mississippi. All the land they own, including 64% of the state of Idaho, is west of the Mississippi. I don't mind them owning it. I just hate the mismanagement of it, the absentee management of it. But, they got 94% of Alaska. When you count up everything now.
You brought up something I want to come back to, and I'm going to try to tie this together with politics moving forward in our country and lack of involvement. Like you mentioned, Lori, people not standing up and defending rights.
I think it's changing a little bit I think that's the strength of Trump. Kind of rallied that base and I think, this is just my opinion, which I always said this is my opinion, not the opinion of the First Lady is not necessarily the express opinion of the governor. That was my disclaimer on every speech.
Mine too.
Yeah, right.
That goes both ways.
No, serious. Yeah. I think Biden helped that message too. Biden did as much to make the Republican Party cohesive as much as Trump did.
But you mentioned something I never heard about before, which is that you're a victim of transportation technology, right? Because there is a sense of, everybody back in D.C., they just go have beers together after they get done putting on the show, and they're screwing over the little guy, and we're all just watching this theater. And that's kind of on one side of the fence. Then all the way on the other is, people fighting, and they can't get along, and you can't govern because you can't compromise on anything. And you brought up something interesting that was said to you about, that's because you're not hanging out on the weekends. You don't have to get along because you're not in the same backyard barbecue together.
You don't have the knowledge to get along.
Right.
The only time I can remember not coming home was 9/11. Because we were trapped in D.C. and it was miserable. We were trapped in D.C. for about 3 solid weeks because they shut down Reagan because it was too damn close to the nation's capital and the White House and the Pentagon. And so they shut down Reagan, and you had to go to Dulles.
And really, that's when you would see, when we would fly in and out, coming home or coming in, that's when you'd see the most members outside of the floor or a lobbyist party or something like that, because they'd all be in the Delta Lounge. So when they had this recent shutdown, with the ICE and all of that deal, that stopped real fast when the congressmen and the senators had to go stand in line, because they don't stand in line. They go right around and they go right to their little Delta thing, and then they get on their little plane. They don't stand in lines. And so when whoever was the brainiac that said, that's it, no more, we don't have the staff to do concierge congressional service, they're going to have to stand in line for 4 hours to get home. Well, comes around, goes around.
Do you think that there's a growing segment of people in the country that don't want to see compromise?
Don't want to see it, or don't
understand it, don't want to see it, don't know what it is?
I think it's a lot more fun to fight, to argue, to debate, to differentiate than it is to be positive.
And I think people are so entrenched in their mode of information that they don't take the time to even consider that there's another side to anything. So, like, remember when I said people would get mad at the decision you made, but they didn't have all the information that you may have to make, that went into making the decision. And so I kind of feel like that's how people are now. They don't really want to take the time to give anybody the benefit of the doubt that maybe there's a different reason than what they think is right, to get to a consensus. And consensus is now seen as losing versus the will of the people and the majority of the people getting a win. They see the small people that are getting the loss. And I think that's where consensus and compromise has really fallen off, because there's no celebration of what was accomplished for the majority of the good. There's only the focus on the small amount that it didn't benefit.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, but the nature of compromise is you both have to lose a little bit.
It has to be painful for both sides, right?
That's how you know it's a good deal, is that both sides have some pain.
Yeah,
otherwise it's not a good
skin
deal.
In the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that from negotiations, right?
Absolutely.
I think if people, if our education system, and I'm not blaming it totally on them, but if our education system did a better job of explaining why and the wherefore that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were not good friends until they died. But they argued a lot. They each had their own position. One was a Federalist, and anyway, there was a lot of disagreement among the founding fathers that gathered Philadelphia. And if people understood those arguments, and I think that's where I saw the light at the end of the tunnel when I was in the Congress, was that people that understood the pains that the founders went through, that understood and could relate those, were the ones that got along. Were the ones the Westerners get along better than the Easterners.
Shared values.
Yeah, it was a messy, painful process that was a miracle it even came together.
250 years ago.
A miracle.
Yeah.
that it ever came together when you really think about
Well,
it.
let alone that it came together, that it has lasted.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of people that would say it's,
You think
there's a lot
you think
going on
of the
now.
time they spent in 1877 between May 25th and September 17th, and by September 17th, they had put the Constitution together.
Yeah.
And it was 7 articles.
Yeah.
And then they left room to add on with Article 5 and Article 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. They left room to add on to it. And then I've got 38 volumes of Thomas Jefferson's writing.
The whole
Do you?
library.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it at Monticello.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
had it for sale up there. And actually, my son, John, bought it for me.
Yeah.
And I got a book every year for my birthday, a book for
Has its own bookshelf.
Christmas, a book for
I got to
Father's
see this
Day.
thing. That's incredible.
It's
Wow.
great. And it's a great resource.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, everybody believed they were great friends.
No.
In the election, John Adams got beat. Raymond Burr turned around and shot the other guy. I haven't seen any of that in Congress yet.
Not yet.
But they were pretty disagreeable.
I know.
And
you
then-
hear that, and then you think,
We're not doing so
maybe
bad.
maybe we're just going back to what it started at in the first place.
And then you take a look at when the Declaration of Independence was being passed. John Adams was the final one to get up and speak. And he said during his speech, "There is a divinity which shapes our ends. Why then should we defer the vote on this resolution, the Declaration of Independence?" Mm-hmm. Well, little did he know that he was prophetic. Well, maybe he did, because John Adams and Thomas Jefferson died on the same day, the 4th of July, 1826. Exactly 50 years.
Yeah, I don't think that's an accident.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But now I really think that it's, coming around. I think, bless his heart, Charlie Kirk's was a big part of that for the schools and things like that. What a loss there. Great guy. God. But we have like the Novus Academy, which is a Hillsdale school here. We have, it seems to me that, and you might have seen this too, that in all of my real estate stuff, the people that are coming here are people that are conservative and they want those type of values. They know the Constitution. They know why they're here. They didn't just randomly pick a state that's close by that's red. And I really think that that next generation of kids with conservative values is really being maybe not in the public school systems, but in other school systems and other policy groups that are starting to have, they're starting to realize that this has been taken for granted, I think. And I think they're starting to spend a lot more time with the youth, which I think the other side understood immediately.
Oh, yeah.
That education was the pathway to change the value system, whether it's the whole system. And it's also, they've discovered the grassroots campaigns and local government is where the root of most everything starts. And so I think the Republicans have had a good time, have had a good run, and are finally getting to the point where they realize that they better start investing in the next generation.
Nick, the most reassuring thing to me is, and you should do this if you haven't, is take a drive around Ada County on Sunday and look at the church parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
They are packed like I've never seen them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all of them are. It doesn't care the denomination, whether it's Catholic or Mormon or Presbyterian, whatever. And that's very reassuring to me because there's nothing more basic to the founding fathers than the Christianity that brought them all together.
So you mentioned, Lori, Charlie Kirk getting assassinated and killed, and I think one of the things that pushed into the limelight that is now people cannot ignore is that this isn't a game.
Oh, no, they mean business.
This isn't a game.
Right? The other side is not.
You might not
around.
care about politics, but politics cares about you.
Yeah, what is it? Either on the plate or your dinner, or you're either coming to dinner or you're on the plate for dinner.
If you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say.
And,
that's Brad Little's favorite.
And that it's been pushed into the public consciousness, and I think people are still grappling with how to fight back, how to deal with it, what to do and what not to do.
Well, I think Charlie had the perfect, he had the perfect model for the, he was making a difference. I mean, here's this, we met him when he was 18 years old, just barely starting out, and what he had accomplished and the cohesiveness of his message and the articulation that he had for that age group, and just being able to articulate something in a non-threatening way, I think is something that generation was just craving for, even if they didn't agree with them. It's like Butch would always say this. If you can defend your decision, most people will accept that. But if you can't defend what you're doing, most people are gonna call you out on it. But if you can make a decision and know why you made it and defend it, then that's the whole different ballgame. But Charlie was just masterful at not taking it personally, sticking to the facts, and I think that generation was just craving that voice.
I think the other thing they crave, and I'd be interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this, is they think they can't make a difference. There's a lot of people out there that want to do the right thing, that believe in the right things, that are good people, but they've just been discouraged, and this is not an accident. They've been discouraged to think that they can't make a difference. What difference can they make? Can one person make? What would you guys say to somebody like that?
Oh, they can make a difference. And I would say if they as an individual say, I can't make a difference, I'm not going to go vote, go pick up 4 or 5 of your neighbors and take them to the polls with you. You'll make a difference. Go to study groups. You'll make a difference. One person can make a big difference. It isn't always so obvious, but they can. It depends upon their sincerity. And it depends upon how well they're following their sincerity.
I think it comes down to, for so long, like my generation, like my parents, married 68 years, but everybody in my family comes from a service background, and by service I don't mean like we served dinner, but we were in the Navy. We were teachers. We were, we all had something that you were in because you understood that your responsibility on here is on the earth and in your life is to make the world a better place. And that's how I was raised. I was like, how are you contributing? We get up in the morning. It's not about Lori. Some days it is because I'm an only child. But most of the time, it's like, what can I do to make the world a better place? Or, how am I helping this family? What am I doing? And I think there's a whole generation of kids out there that have never had anybody saying that, it's really not just about you. It's about what you bring to the table to make everything better. And I really feel that that's the message that youth has lost, is that when somebody says to me, you can't make a difference, it's like, that's so selfish. It's the most selfish thing I think a person can do, is to not look at what their talents are and what they've been given and what they've been blessed with, and then to say, well, I can't do anything. Well, you know what? Get out of your own head and look around. There's people out there a hell of a lot worse off than you.
Yeah. If you take a look at one person saying, I can't make a difference, or a group of people saying, I can't make a difference, what they're saying really, Nick, I can't make a contribution. And that's what it's all about that's what it was all about in the Founding Fathers. That's what it's all about in society today. That's what it's all about in my church. That's what it's all about in my circles of influence. That was what it was all about for the 36 years that I served in government, was deciding I can make a contribution and I'm going to.
Yeah.
So you have to come at it from a servant's heart, because it's not easy, but it's doable. I mean, Butch and I used to laugh when we'd be sitting at the White House and he'd be like, not bad for a girl from Kimberly, Idaho and Caldwell, Idaho. And then one year we'd been to the White House for six dinners, or twice a year, so 12 there, and then we were in governorship for 12 years and we'd gone for twice a year then. So by now we'd been to the White House like 30 times. And we're like, do you want to go? And he's like, not really.
We can wrap up. I could talk to you guys all day, but I don't want to keep you here too long. I appreciate you both so much. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate who you are. You're inspirational on many different levels to me and to many other people, many other Idahoans. And you guys, to wrap this up, I just wanted to say it. What you were just talking about, where you've come from and what you've accomplished, is incredibly inspiring to other people. Well, incredibly inspiring.
It's somebody said, "How'd you do that?" And we always just look at each other and say, "We don't know. We don't know how we did it." I mean, I just started liking people again, Nick.
But it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish if you never quit, right?
And, well, quitting's not an option.
That's what I wish everyone can understand, and I'm trying to turn as many of those light bulbs on in people's heads as I can, because once they make the connection between grit and gutting it out and not quitting and the reward that they get, you're never the same once you figure that out.
Be stronger than your excuses.
Yep.
Damn straight. Yep. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet.